Welcome back. We do apologize for that break in transmission, and we will be crossing in a few moments to Hasina Gori, who's keeping a close eye on that story of the 7 men that have been charged for the rape of 8 women in Krugersdorp. But as we continue to shine a spotlight on various societal problems faced by women and children, let's continue to celebrate Women's Month. We're now joined via Zoom by Vanita Daniels. Now, Vanita is the Director for Administration at Rise Up Against Gender-Based Violence. Vanita, a good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for giving us your time. It's interesting that when we should be celebrating the strides that could have been made by women in 2022, as Women's Month started, one of the biggest stories to grab our attention is 8 women being raped in Krugersdorp. This really does paint a picture about where we are as women in South Africa, doesn't it?
No, it definitely does. Thank you for having me. Look, generally for us, this is a really dark time. It's very difficult to even say celebrating Women's Month, because what are we celebrating? I mean, when the Minister of Police released the latest crime stats for the first quarter, it was, even himself said, this was a really dark time for women and children in this country, because the stats were horrendous. And so, kicking off Women's Month with the news of the Krugersdorp rape, but this happens with 16 days of activism as well. First day, we get horrendous news reports, but for us who work in the sector, this isn't, and it's sad to say, this isn't news. This isn't breaking news for us. These are things that we deal with on a daily basis in this country, dealing with sexual violence, gender-based violence, as it relates to women and children and gender non-conforming persons in this country.
Yeah, I think what stands out is that after the Krugersdorp rape, you're starting to hear words being used like increasing numbers of gender-based violence in South Africa, when that's not a reality, is it? That the numbers have fluctuated, but for the most part, they've stayed quite steady, which means we're not making any progress in dealing with the problem.
Yeah, and the way in which we are reporting, crime stats come out and then it's, these horrendous numbers, but it's really not horrendous. Quarter on quarter, we see crime stats, especially around rape, just averaging out between 9,000 and 11,000 every quarter. So it feels as if it's a challenge and a problem that we are not winning this battle at all. I know with the last release of the crime stats, I think it was in the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee, somebody had made a comment that it was safer in the Ukraine than living in this country every single day, especially as a poor black woman in this country. So this isn't news. This is, it's not an increase, not a decrease. This is steadily our crime stats, and we're not doing anything about it as a country. We're not moving the needle on GBV at all.
Yeah, you're saying we're not celebrating Women's Day, we're observing Women's Month. And yesterday we saw the President of South Africa addressing the nation for that Women's Day address. And he talked about the challenges that we're facing with gender-based violence. Are you satisfied with what we hear from the head of state about what is a daily fear for women?
Look, the one good thing is that the president does talk about GBV. And I think he generally talks about it on every platform that he's at. We are currently in the process of looking at another presidential summit around gender-based violence to see what government has been doing around GBV. There were promises that was made during 2018, the 2019 summit, and it's now an opportunity for us to say to government, what have you done?
Right.
How do you account? Who's responsible? And so all the departments needs to step up. Department of, for instance, in the security cluster needs to step up. Department of Health, housing.
Right.
It's a lot of social issues that are affecting violence against women and children in this country.
I'm keen to tap into those ideas that you have as recommendations, right, for the various departments and what each department really needs to be doing when you say they need to step up. But let's follow up with the story around the 8 women in Krugersdorp. Some developments there. Our reporter Hasina Gori joins us for an update. Hasina, a good afternoon to you. What has happened so far? What's the latest?
Hasina, a good afternoon to you. What has happened so far? What's the latest? Good afternoon. When we last spoke, we saw those 7 accused finally appearing at the Krugersdorp Magistrate's Court, facing charges of multiple rape, as well as aggravated robbery with aggravated circumstances, as well as contravention of the Immigration Act. It was finally after quite a long day of waiting here outside court to find out whether or not there was going to be any link to this rape case that you finally saw suspects being brought. 2 of them are minors. The matter has been postponed to the 28th of September for the state to further investigate the matter. But we're also told that there's going to be a further 7 who are going to be brought to court tomorrow on the same charges. But I want to bring the NPA's Pindim Jonanwane right now to speak to us and just tell us, firstly, I think the big question people are asking is whether or not those that appeared in court today are linked to that incident that happened 2 weeks ago at West Village. I think that's where we can first start.
Well, we can confirm as the NPA that there are prospects of a successful prosecution against the 7 that appeared today. Hence, we enrolled the matter and charged them with multiple counts of rapes, sexual assault, as well as contravention of the Immigration Act and robbery with aggravation circumstances.
I think also, can we confirm that they're linked to the incident that took place at an abandoned mine dump?
Well, there is a prima facie case against all accused. As to how they are linked, that will be information that is shared in a court of law. As you are well aware that we are officers of the court, therefore we first present evidence in court before it can be made of public consumption.
We know that an ID parade has been done so far. Was that also used to link these suspects to the crime?
Well, what we can confirm as the NPA, as per information that we received from the investigating officer, is that indeed an ID parade was conducted yesterday.
Also, we know that more suspects will appear tomorrow. Can you give me more information with how many as well as what charges they're facing?
In total, the prosecutor identified 14 accused persons that are charged with rape, robbery with aggravating circumstances, as well as sexual assault. So the first 7 appeared today, and the remaining 7 will appear tomorrow after they have appeared in Randfontein Magistrate's Court, where they are also facing charges of contravention of the Immigration Act.
Thank you so much. That was the NPA's Pindim Jonanwane speaking to us outside the courts here and just giving us an update with regards to that. As you heard, 14 suspects altogether have been identified by the state and can be linked to that rape incident. I want to get some comment from the community and the political parties that have been here. You know, you've been part of this process from the beginning. As a PAC, how are you feeling hearing that someone or some people have been linked to this crime?
Firstly, we are from the PA, not PAC. That's not a problem. How do we feel about this? We feel that swift action needs to be taken with these people. They were not slow in raping our women. They were not slow in abusing our women. They were not slow in ensuring that our woman has been traumatized. These ladies will never have a normal life again. This will live with them forever. How do I feel? As a mother, as a grandmother, how do I feel? I feel they need to go because we live in fear in our own country. Now we must still go on our knees and ask them, please go back home. We don't want you here. No. Our different departments need to stand up. SARS. Who else? Social development, home affairs. All these departments need to step up They need to get their act together, work together, and get rid of these people. Let us breathe in our own country. We are not free. We are not free. Not even our born frees that were born free are free anymore. They're not. We live in fear as women. These people must just go. They need to go. I don't know how
Thank you so much.
Even more.
There was a Patriotic Alliance speaking to us here, just expressing, just the sentiment we've heard quite a lot here, over the last few weeks from many, saying that they live in fear, saying that they live, uncertain whether or not there would be another victim here. But I want to see if we can get in the action essay as well. We spoke to one of you earlier this morning as well. We finally found people. We're saying there's going to be 14 at this point. How are you feeling?
We can't be happy with the 14 being charged. We want to see justice for our girls, and as a young person, as actually we want to see action, justice for the girls. It must happen quickly, and we don't want to see the tactics of the NPA and the SABC going forward. We want to see this thing done as in yesterday. We want these girls to continue living their life as normal. Like that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That was Action SA speaking to us here outside the Krugersdorp Magistrate's Court, where the 7 men have appeared, or 7 accused. 2 of them are minors at this stage. But I want to bring in one more person from the community here, just finding out from you, how are you feeling as a woman here? Seeing those accused in court. I saw you in court earlier. How are you feeling?
Okay, ma'am. More than anything, I'm frustrated. I'm angry. I'm just appalled because I'm failing to understand what is the minister, who's the minister protecting. As much as the minister. As much as Minister was interviewed last night during his interview, live on air, he said the victims have then identified the perpetrators, and then there is a lead. There could be a possibility that they are being found guilty, of which that's not the case. We cannot celebrate because we don't know for sure whether the perpetrators, the ones that are being arrested, are in fact guilty of rape, other than the other charges of being illegal immigrants, or we are sitting with the temper that the perpetrators are still out there roaming around in the streets, which means that the women are still not safe. How does a country, a whole full country, sit with a minimum number of police in this country, of which it's a failure? Why are we depriving the presidency to take accountability and send the defense force? We are saying that we do not want any negotiations. The time for negotiations has passed. The SA Defense Force must be here, should have been in all corners here, should have been in all the mining dumps. Right now as we speak, who is monitoring the mine dumps as we speak? Who knows what goes in and what goes out there?
Okay. Thank you so much. That was someone from the community speaking to us quite passionately on what they feel should be done. But I'll bring in lastly, just before I hand back to you in studio, Nomvula Makanyane. Thank you so much. We spoke earlier this morning before court started. How are you feeling, being in court, seeing those suspects in court, 2 are minors? What's the response from you?
Firstly, we must express our shock, mixed emotions, looking at those men in there, and honestly, they have been charged with robbery and rape over and above the violation of the Immigration Act. It's not our responsibility to say because they are minors. They are suspects in this case. They will have to prove their innocence. And the fact that they are minors also shows how people's poverty and socio-economic status gets abused. And hence we believe that the interventions go beyond just a case and a trial. It must also be about other issues such as border control, issues around the management of deserted mines, as well as community mobilization and awareness. We must urge our own community members from desisting from harboring these kind of criminals, where in your own shack you allow farming in the form of digging holes and looking for gold. Secondly, we must also talk to our own business people that as long as we continue to exploit people's economic conditions, our country will not be spared of this kind of crimes. Yes, it's not only non-South Africans, it is even done by South Africans. But in this instance, it becomes even worse because they exploit the minerals, they abuse our women, and over and above that, they undermine the law.
Thank you so much. That was the ANC's Nombula Makonyane speaking to us here outside the Krugersdorp Magistrate's Court, where those 7 suspects of the 14 have appeared on charges of rape, multiple rape and sexual assault, as well as robbery. They will return to court on the 28th. These 7, another 7 are expected to appear tomorrow. But that's it for me for now. Back to you in studio.
Thank you so much, Hasina Gori. They're bringing us the latest from outside of court. We're still joined by Vanita Daniels, Director for Administration at Rise Up Against Gender-Based Violence. What do you make of these developments? Now we've got 14 people charged. 7 of them have appeared. 2 of them are minors, which is really quite concerning. And as you answer that, perhaps, Vanita, I think a really good place to start is what you make of this discussion now becoming very much about illegal immigrants in the country.
Yeah, that has been very concerning around the rape incidences in Krugersdorp, that instead of talking about gender-based violence, we are now talking about illegal immigrants, undocumented migrants. We're talking about Zamas, for instance. And I mean, it's good to finally have some news where people were actually arrested for the rape, because we've had we've been hearing about 100 people have been arrested, and so far there hasn't been, until now of course, there hasn't been anybody that was arrested in connection with the rape. And so, but it really highlights the issues around how difficult it is for us as a country to keep talking about gender-based violence and our horrendous stats that we see. And so I think there's a sense of, I don't know if this is the right term to be using, but there's a sense of tiredness. Also, we like goldfish in this country when it comes to our attention span. And it is helped by the media as well, because suddenly, it is whatever's the next, news story that's being punted on media channels. And so the conversation around gender-based violence does take a sort of a back step when there's all these other issues that we have to deal with as a country as well. And I don't think people actually realize how pervasive gender-based violence in this country is. People don't realize the effects that GBV has, not just on victims and survivors, but on their families, on perpetrators, on society in general. And so it's important for us to keep talking about gender-based violence, no matter how tiring it is for us as a society as a whole to talk about this issue.
Yeah. And talk about it we will. Vanita, thank you so much for your time. That there is Vanita Daniels. She's Director for Administration at Rise Up Against Gender-Based Violence.